Hello, everyone. This is Allegedly Caleb, and welcome back to more of our 71st Infantry Division Historical SASL or Solitaire Advanced Squad Leader game. We are playing with a bunch of other people, all of us managing our own infantry companies, all involved and part of one big infantry division. And our campaign leader, almost like a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, is the one who's taking us through each of these missions, generating what we run into, all of that good stuff. So we have finished our second mission, and that's what I'm going to show you today. But first, I want to show you a quick overview of what our first mission map looked like for everyone. So this is me, second company, 1st Battalion, 191st Regiment. So I fought through these maps right here. You can see my terrain was not horrible compared to some of my colleagues, but if you watched my first episode, which if you haven't, I highly recommend you to go and find the playlist, it was quite a slog. We ran into some French heavily fortified units and some pretty elite units as well. They had a lot of elite squads in there. So we lost a lot of squads in our first mission. In our second mission, it's not going to get any better. In fact, we were loaned about a platoon and a half of men from 11th Company, which you'll notice was not on in this advance. And yeah, we kept them pretty safe. But anyway, let's get into the mission. So this is the overall master map so far. Where is it? Here it is. This is our orders. Everyone gets one of these. They're all created by our battalion or regiment commanders. So this is for our battalion. I'm second company, so I was assigned the cautious advance mission. I'm glad I wasn't first company because they had a river assault. And then I'm also glad I wasn't third company because they had a block party. But I have a feeling that my company is about to go into reserve after my last mission. We took a lot of casualties. But anyway, so this is the overview of what our battalion's doing. The 191st Infantry Regiment forces a river crossing with two companies, 1st and 2nd, and then attacks to seize some objectives in Malandry and Vili with support of divisional artillery. This is a daytime mission. The most urban you'll run into is some villages, and then by the time we actually reach the towns, those companies are gonna have to fight through urban terrain, which is never fun. So our battalion is conducting river assault first. That's the 1st company, not me. They want to secure a bridgehead. After that, the remainder of the battalion will cross over, and then my company will push through 1st Company's lines to conduct a cautious advance towards Vili, and then the 3rd Company will take the village itself. So, 2nd Company, that's us. We're conducting cautious advance. Our boards are defined above. I'll show you what they look like in a second. I have two 81mm mortars assigned to me to help support my advance. Excuse me. And that's it. So there's not supposed to be any French armor in the area. Anything else? There's a lot of enemy artillery in the area, so our sniper activation is higher. Their ELR is still 2 though, which means they're going to decrease in quality very quickly. Okay, anything else we should know? Not really. Okay, so that's the company orders. Here is how the map setup is. So these first 3, these are all objectives that we need to take on this first map. And we won't be able to see the objectives or enemies on the second map until we move close enough to it. Same thing with this third map. So you can see this first map It is May, so fields are plowed right now. Not great when you're trying to advance. It's great for defense because you can shoot pretty far away, but not great for advancing like we were. But we've got to take this little facility right here. We've got to take these woods, and then we have to take both of these buildings. These buildings are both part of one objective. Once we can do that, we'll be able to, once I cross this red line right here, that's when I can start potentially unlocking the second map. Now let's look at where the enemy forces ended up. Here they are. So they have a lot of men in this little facility right here. Let's actually open up my epic pen. Here it is. Okay, so they've got a lot of men here. Potentially more men around here. Anywhere where there's an objective, by the way, that's going to potentially increase the amount of enemy men you run into. They're going to have more over here, more over here. And then all of these areas, potentially there's not really going to be anything there. But the main areas you got to be watchful of are the buildings and the areas around the objectives. Particularly the stone buildings and the two-storied buildings, by the way. So my plan, I'll use black, is to create a base of fire along here to basically try to take this objective by force, maybe even along here. And also a second base of fire along this whole area to potentially take that. Now the problem with this, with these positions, is they can both cover anyone coming from this way. So that's the main issue. And this area, they can cover anyone trying to approach from really far away. So it's key that I take this one first because it has the most cover leading up to it. These guys can't really shoot this way very well. Most of them can't, at least. So you'll see I go after this objective first. Then, once I've started to secure that objective, I move after this objective. And once I have those, my plan is to sweep through here and hit these guys from the back while maintaining a base of fire from up here to shoot down at those objectives. So that's my plan for this first map. You'll see how it goes here in a moment. Let's go ahead and delete all of that and take a look at our forces. So we have a couple of 50mm mortars. We've got about 4 platoons worth of men. A bunch of them are from 11th Company, which are all numbered right there. Got Mr. Barrett here. He is wounded from last mission, but he was not evacuated, so he wanted to keep going. 11th Company's loner commander, and then me. A 9-2, which I got very lucky with. I got a promotion last game, I believe. All right, and then we have 2 of these 81mm mortars. And then we've got basically a heavy weapons platoon right here. You got 2 machine guns, that 81mm mortar, and then I spread my 50mm mortars out. Basically, they're going to try to hit everyone in woods because mortars have very good attack against wood hexes because they cause air bursts. So anyone in a wood hex is much more likely to get hit by a mortar. Anyway, so let's see how things progressed. Okay, so let's skip past this first part because I accidentally did the beginning wrong. Also, I was trying to use a new plugin, so that's why you see me just going crazy with my units there. Okay, so let's get past this part because we realized, I forget what I did, but I realized I did something wrong. Yeah, you see me putting everything back. Okay, now here we go. Here's the start. Oh yeah, the other thing you'll see a lot that I should explain first. For some reason, so in Solitaire Advanced Squad Leader, you activate enemy suspect counters depending on how far away you are and how much cover your men have as they're moving. For some reason, so in this version of Vassal, you're able to, it will light the counter up. You'll see it. It'll light the counter up when it should be activated, but it only worked for crews for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but that's why you'll see me move that activation crew around all over the place. Anyway, so French are starting to be generated. Already we've got a medium machine gun and a first line infantry squad on the second tile of that, or second floor of that roof, but luckily for me, their machine gun malfunctioned almost immediately. Okay, and this is the first sign of me having really bad luck. I moved my squad onto that what was it? A 4, excuse me. This counter right here, that essentially means there's 4 residual firepower on that hex, and I rolled a 2. So a 2 on a 4, even a 3 on a 4, or a 2 on a 4 is K2, which means basically your squad loses half of its men and they take a morale hit or a morale check. So because I'm moving them not in assault movement, and or it causes them to get really badly hurt. So let's continue. Move them up. They rolled really low again. Moving my other unit up. So far, these guys, of course, broke the men there that were trying to move in there. They're rolling 2s and 4s right now. Okay. So you're watching in real time my initial attack of just me getting all my men on this screen. Oh, and this is when I find out not only are they in a fortified building location, but they also have a 37mm infantry gun with them, which is a nasty little thing that can hurt your men quite a lot. So my guys, even though some of them are getting onto the board, they're getting broken or killed pretty much as soon as they come on by these French. So you can see already. Look at that. Look at these dice rolls. Not very fun. Anyway. Oh, and things only get worse. Things get far worse. I start rolling fate for my rally phase. Not this rally phase, but soon. Soon you'll see it. Which, if you don't know what that means, that essentially means... fate essentially means your unit gets depleted when it tries to rally, and it's by rolling boxcars or double 6s. But then, on top of all of that, the enemy gets a local counterattack from an RE, a random event. And that means a bunch of their forces are going to suddenly go on activation counters, or not activation, they're going to be attacking me, essentially. So here we go. Here they are, and we get an enemy vehicle. It's only an armored car with a machine gun, but still it's an enemy vehicle. And I conveniently decided to leave one of my 2 AT rifles at home because I was missing a crew. And I figured a 50mm mortar would be more helpful on this map, considering that I'd forgotten that I'm not supposed to spawn enemy AFVs in this mission. But I'd forgotten that, and here they are. So, rolled another one over here. Now we've got a AA gun, or AA truck, and then another of that same armored car. So in total, you got 2 armored cars and a AA truck coming at me with their full complement of infantry, elite, first class with light machine gun. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is perfect. I'm going to get routed right off the edge of this. But then a lone Stuka comes screaming through the skies. I got this as part of my pre-mission fate roll, which is something in Group Solitaire Advanced Squad Leader, where you roll a dice before your mission starts, and something good or something bad or something neutral, just something will happen. And in mine, I got a Stuka. So this guy came in right in time and was able to save my men, save their butts. Being a little risky with the enemy AA truck right there, but I went after him first. Excuse me. My goal is to go after him with strafing fire. So here we are. Some of my men are starting to rally. In fact, these guys not only rallied, they battle hardened. But let's take a look at my casualties so far. I've lost 1.5 squads and my heavy machine gun squad. But here I am attacking with my Stuka, and I critically hit it. I make it go up in a blaze of glory. And this blaze right here is going to be one of the things that actually saves me, because it's going to catch this fortified building on fire. And even though I'll lose out on the victory points, it's going to force the enemy to leave those positions and let my men breathe a little more. So, here we go. Some of them are starting to spawn on down at the edge here. Medium machine gun with an 8-1 leader. Pretty good. Oh, and there's another fortified building with a engineer squad there. And then one of their units, another elite squad, got into this house, basically breathing down my neck. More enemy infantry in this objective hex right here. And my good squad right here gets routed. Trying to get into this hex now, because I know with this fire I'm not going to be able to get over here, and most of the enemy markers over here were dummy markers. So I'm thinking if I can get over here, I can potentially shoot down onto all of these guys and at least take a hex, at least take an objective hex. All right, so these guys broke, which was excellent. My sniper did actually help break some enemy units at very opportune times, but you can see their snipers right on top of my men as well. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention my Stuka took out that second enemy armored vehicle. So now they've got two blazes because it also went up in a blaze of smoke. And now we're putting heavy fire onto these guys. That was a big stack among all of these men right here, I believe. All right, and then my Stuka took out the last one right before the turn it had to leave. So, you can see the start of this mission has been pretty crazy. It's been pretty crazy. We're still at that 1.5, including the heavy machine gun company. But the enemy have lost 3 vehicles and then about 2 squads. So right now we're doing good. And those enemy vehicle losses were actually really good for my VP. Because part of the mission objectives in this mission is I get points for every enemy vehicle I destroy, equal to their casualty victory points. So that helped save me at this beginning because they hiked up a lot of VP points. All right, I'll be right back with the next part. All right, here we are with the next turn. So let's start paging down. You can see we now have our confidence instilled in us a little bit, but we're still going to be... Oh, and we have a toehold over here. So we've got a whole platoon from 11th Company in these woods going at it with this squad right here. We had all of these men fire on them, and they still somehow did not break them, which was unfortunate. And all of these units over here firing as well. But at least our sniper counter broke those guys right there, which was good. Okay, but we did finally break them as well. So now we have this whole wooded area to ourselves. And now we're going to start trying to push our men across the forest. But of course it doesn't work. They shoot them down. And here we go. We get into this wooden house right here. And we move up next to it so we can advance into the house next turn. Their units are shooting at us, and that is when I get my field promotion through a 2 MC, which brings me up to a 10-2 through a battle hardening. Which I actually rolled on the battle hardening table and got that as well. Okay, but now we just unlocked more men over here. And they have an assault engineer squad with a light machine gun and a demolition charge. So those guys are going to be hard to uproot. Oh, and a 9-1 leader. So we got 2 elite squads over here. Oh, and one of our units ran into a mine and died. You know, of course they did with our luck. So now we're moving up into these woods, as you can see on the left of the main building. Okay, now we're moving our men down in these woods. And we've officially captured that objective. So the first objective is ours. We're still fighting over this objective. And with advanced fire, we were able to break some of the units in this objective. Now they rout. And of course, look at that. That means there is now a blaze in this building. So this building will no longer be worth victory points here in a minute. But that's really bad for these units because they cannot go downstairs in this hex anymore. They're going to have to go over here, then go downstairs if they want to leave. If that hex doesn't get covered, if that hex has fire spread to it, they're going to be screwed. All right, we went into CC with that enemy leader and captured him. Now this unit right here, it looks kind of pathetic, just not really doing anything there, a 2-2 green unit, but they're about to do something that's going to make advancing from this area very difficult. And it doesn't help that the enemy has a full squad with a light machine gun up, breathing down the neck of that 50mm mortar. But we did pin him. Okay. Now we fired on them and they made a leader. But they were able to leave, which is good for them. And I'm sorry, they didn't make a leader. They generated a hero because they also got battle hardened. And that happened a couple times. The enemy battle hardened a couple times and generated a couple different heroes. Excuse me. So now they're occupying these woods over here. And that's the end of the log file. Here's the casualty so far. We have 2 squad equivalents plus an HMG. They've got 3 squad equivalents plus all those vehicles. Okay, everyone, it is now turn 4. So, as of now, you can see the enemy and me are pretty chaotically all over the place. The enemy made a foxhole right in this little wooded hex, which really stalls our advance because we can't just easily root them out of there anymore. So let's see what happens. One of their units goes berserk through heat of battle. So that's a full enemy squad. That now has 10 morale and will beeline towards the closest friendly squad they can see. And that, my friends, is how you lose squads in Solitaire Advanced Squad Leader. Enemy berserk units getting your guys in close combat. Okay, here we are. Close combat's just a general way to lose your units in this game. By the way, I wouldn't risk your units in them unless you got really good odds. Anyway, you can see we are very close to putting these guys out of their misery. We've got a full platoon right on their heads, led by Barrett. We're really risking it by being right next to him there. Okay, but we realized we forgot to roll for Blaze. And with the Blaze counter, it would have ended up in these woods. So we can't have moved that unit into that Blaze because you can't do that. And if you wanted to, your unit would die. So instead, we move them down towards this other area where we're going to try to push for the end of the map. And one of our units breaks while trying to cross. Yeah, that gun down there still being really, really annoying. They got more units, 2 green squads. Let's continue. And here they go. That berserk unit is about to pick one of our units to go after. And there they go. They're going after the elite unit. That's the one they chose. What happened here? Did we pin them? Yeah, that's what happened. Okay. That close combat's going to last a little while. Neither unit will finish off the other for a bit. But we did route some of our units away. And both of those units from 11th Company routed, which is not great. All right. So, kind of stagnating a little bit. This objective is now basically completely up in flames. So the center of the map is going to be a little bit inaccessible at the moment. Now let's take a look at the next map. At the next turn, I mean. Okay, now these are turns 5 and 6. So let's go through them. That's me showing what units I am rallying. And now it's my turn. So moving my units forward. And they got another assault engineer over here along with half a squad of green troops. All right. Just trying to push our men forward. Get more firepower on the enemy. And they broke from 11th Company. They've got a lot of men who can shoot from pretty far away. We push up my guys over here. All right, we did a boxcar on one of our rallies, so we've got even more casualties now. We're now at 2.5 squads. But we are rallying some of our squads back, which is good. We did actually do a pretty good job at rallying in this game, and even staying not panicking. Anyway, now the enemy's firing at us, except for the ones that rolled to move this turn. Such as this whole platoon, or that whole squad. All right. Oh, this is when I was trying to fix. Yeah, there we go. Ignore the vehicles that showed up over there. Okay. Again, just trying to get firepower up. We were able to kill these guys. Very stupidly advanced on us, trying to counterattack, I guess. Maybe go into CC or get into here. Would you look at that? Another hero. Those guys generated another hero. So you got a hero here, a hero there, And I know we're going to get another hero somewhere. Okay, they were able to fall back a little bit. Because that blaze did end up taking over their hex. Let's get them on. We're going to do everything we can to get these guys routed. We wounded their leader, which is good. All right. Firing at them with a bunch of our support weapons. And trying to flank around with our troops. Here we go. And we were able to take this hex in close combat. Led by me again. Wow, I didn't realize how many close combats I led. We finally ended this one too, so that's huge. We now have a 4-6-8 squad that we can use again. Meanwhile, these guys are back in woods and in a central position, putting fire on all our men. And they accidentally killed their own squad. Their assault engineers now counterattacking from the side, just a little bit. Okay. But we're able to get rid of the hero there and route that guy. So we finally are going to have some room to start moving forward in the center again. Once we can get this guy out of here, and hopefully no one activates there, we'll be able to just push through the center and finally take that last objective on this map. So let's take a look at the next turn. Okay, we're back. So this is the majority of the rest of the game. Turn 7 through 12, and then there will only be one more turn after that, turn 13. So we're going to push down the center. And we unlock the new map. So let's generate all that. And you can see this map is not going to be very good for us. So we've got 3 new objective hexes. One right here on the right flank, and 2 on the left flank in the middle of this little village right here. The problem is I have to capture some of these. Otherwise, most likely the enemy is going to potentially surpass us on VP hexes or victory points. And the amount of suspect counters is also frankly quite scary. We want to avoid activating as many of these as we can, because we have lost so many troops. I don't think we're even going to get to this map. That's what I'm thinking at this point. So first thing they do is unlock a 75mm gun, which immediately does not fire correctly, thankfully for me. That would have been a nightmare to try to deal with. Okay, so we're going to try getting more men, and one nice thing when I forget which unit it was, but it came with a fortification generation, and one of the things that you can generate in these games are obstacles, including anti-tank ditches. And these essentially operate as trenches, except armored units cannot cross them. So my unit essentially got a free trench to use to shoot against these guys for what ended up being almost the rest of the game. But the enemy are also in a trench right here. So, weird place to dig an anti-tank ditch, but okay. Pushing our guys across. They routed a couple of my men, but now we're really putting pressure on their units. And this guy's panicked, so that's why he's not really firing, except he should be firing at the unit next to him. Did he? Oh yeah, there he goes. Oh, it's because they not assault moved. They advanced next to him. That's why. All right. At this point, we're just trying to play it cool, not lose any more men. Because if we can capture these objectives, then we could potentially win without taking these ones. Because we'll have 2 objectives to their 3, plus a nice buffer of points. So our main goal right now is just taking this objective. Unfortunately, they KIA'd one of my entire squads running across to try and get closer to that objective. It was my elite squad too. So now it's 13-19. This guy was trying to move down here to get to that objective, but he broke. And actually, he got killed too. Which, when you lose a support squad, suddenly the point difference becomes close. Because, not support squads. When you lose an attached squad, those are worth 1.5 points versus just your normal squads, which are just worth 100 times their normal. Like, they're worth 100% of their victory points, whereas attached units are worth 150% of their victory points. So suddenly we go from 11-19 to 16-19, all in just a couple of moves. So now we can't just sit back and take this objective and hope it's a close game. We're going to have to take some objectives on this map. And I'm thinking, oh, crap. I just shot myself in the foot. I even actually asked my commanding officer in this game what he thought I should do. If he thought I should try to move or try to continue, potentially take more casualties, or just try and sit there and just not take any more losses, or hybrid in the middle. And he suggested I just slowly poke forward and just shoot at any suspect counters I see until I have open ground in front of me, and then just do that same thing over and over again until I get more objective hexes. So that's what I did. Luckily, these guys finally broke, which means I can finally capture these hexes with no enemy presence nearby. So you can see that's what I'm doing over here. These guys are going to come down here to take those hexes. You got some other guys. Oh, they broke. So now I can finally move over here as well. So my new plan, let me draw it up for you. Send guys down here. Capture that one. Capture that one. And then don't push them too far. everyone else, I want to push them around into these, shoot these. Hopefully no one ends up there. And then use this, shoot this guy, hope no one ends up there or deal with them when they do. And then move along that wall. Oops, I accidentally used a giant, paint. But anyway, then shoot at this guy and take that objective. Maybe even push across the street and take this objective if I'm lucky. But at the very least, if I'm not that lucky, I can push either some of these guys over this way to try and hopefully get into these woods and then slowly get into this objective. That's my goal. I'm going to just leave the center untouched. Do not go there. There's so many men over here, so many suspect counters. I don't even want to risk that. Plus, there's this whole area, which kind of sucks. There's a whole bunch of enemy men in those buildings. Let me show you. A whole bunch of suspect counters, at least. So I really don't want to go there. And then you got all these men over here as well. No, thank you. So, let's quickly speed through the rest of this and show you what happens. Here. Let's bring this up. Okay, rally phase. Their turn to fire on me. These guys come back, and they have a leader. What a surprise. That's the third leader that was generated, by the way. They're now pushing onto my fortified buildings, which frankly do not have very many men. Just 2 half squads protecting that entire objective. Oops. There we go. So, luckily for me, that turn... Actually, no, that was unlucky. Those were my men that had panic markers. But we got some of our men over here, including our mortar, which would be instrumental for figuring out if there's anyone in these woods right here. And you can see we're getting some of our men down here. One of their heroes, one of their leaders went heroic though, which stinks. I forgot, Barrett took 2 wounds, so we could potentially lose him this mission. There we go. Okay. So we're starting to reveal their units over here. They've got an elite unit in that stone building, which is not good because it's literally right next to the enemy objective. But luckily for us, there was no enemy unit in the enemy objective on the right, which was very lucky for us. Unfortunately, they had a fortified stone building on the left that's overseeing this whole street and this street up here. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to push along here. I probably won't be able to root those guys out of there in time because fortified stone buildings, that's a +4 die roll modifier. That's difficult to gain unless you have a huge death stack of units. So here we are. We pushed a unit here ready to try and get into that objective. We also pushed some units over here to this fence to try and get into that objective. That's our strategy right now. We were able to rout the enemy units out of the trench in that objective, which is good. And now we're just shooting at all these suspect counters. Okay, Unfortunately, when we shot at this counter to see if there was anything there, there was, and there was something quite big. An enemy 65 millimeter infantry gun. If that thing connects, it's going to hurt. Luckily for us, they missed their first shot while we were out in the open. So now we keep on going. And we are in this objective, which means it is now ours. And we're one away from this one. And our strategy over here is just to advance so these guys can't opportunity fire. So we're so close. And we got in there, and none of the enemy units were able to break them because of the +3 building. So now we have those 2 extra objectives. It's now 17 to 19. Very, very close. But this gun shoots into this building and hits everyone, routing all of us, including me, who had a morale level of 10. And that's the end of the log file. So all they got to do is push one of these units across the street and retake that. Let's take a look at casualties. So this is 11th Company. They've lost 2.5 squads. This is 2nd Company. We've lost about 4 squads and a heavy machine gun. And 2 of our 50 millimeter mortars malfunctioned and broke. Not great. Not great at all. So you can see we are... Oh, and now that we're on turn... Wrong one. Now that we're on turn 13, or every turn past turn 10 is potentially the last game turn. You roll a die, and if you roll a 1 or a 2 at the end of each turn, the turn is automatically over. Excuse me. So, that is why it's getting pretty sketchy over here. All right, time for the final turn. One thing I should mention, the way victory points are calculated, or victory objectives, I don't know how much each objective is worth right now. That will only be revealed after the game is over. So, for example, both of these objectives could be worth 1 point each. And then the enemy could have objectives worth 5 points, depending on how well they roll. And I would lose. That's just how it is. So that's why I am so concerned with trying to keep hold of as many as I can and prevent the enemy from holding on to many before the game ends. Right now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas the enemy has 1. Now, if I take this last one, this map will automatically be activated, and then the enemy will also have the objectives over there to count towards their victory points. So I don't want to take this one, which is part of why I'm not going to fight for it. So let's see what happens. Lost another unit to fate, by the way. Okay. And the enemy shoots up here, breaks and kills one of those, half of the unit. But he didn't get a shoot again, which is lucky for me. So it's now 18 to 19. It is extremely close. And we found another enemy over here, and that enemy unlocked more fortifications, which included a barbed wire fence. So that is going to help me a lot by not allowing the enemy to easily retake this objective. So the only objective they're going to be able to retake easily is this one. But as we discover, they're not going to have any units who want to. And all of our friendly units that are not support weapons are over here. Okay. That's the end. The end of the turn was reached, and we rolled a 2, I believe. So, that is the end of the game. Now we have to figure out how many victory points each of these objectives is going to be worth. So that's what I'm doing right now. This first one was worth nothing because it burned down. The second one that I have is worth 4 points. So now I add those onto there. Third one I have is also worth 4 points. Now, the next one I have, the one that I just lost some of those guys across from here, is worth 4 points. And then the final one, or the next one that I have, my final one, is worth 3 points. Now finally, the enemies, and we're breathing easy at this point because no matter how much it's worth, they cannot pass us because the most it can be worth is 6, I think. It's also worth 4 points. A lot of 4-point victory objectives in this game. And that's the end. That is the end of the mission. It was quite a crazy mission. I definitely played way too aggressively. But we were able to make it work and come out with a victory. So, I do want to share one more thing before we're done. I want to share the AAR that I wrote for this. So I'm going to read this out to you. I wrote this from the perspective of my leader, which was me. So my men were already worn thin from this first engagement. Losses had been heavy, heavier than I dared admit out loud, and we had been... And here, let me zoom in. It's hard for me to read that one. It's so small. Okay. My men were already worn thin from the first engagement. Losses had been heavy, heavier than I dared admit out loud, and we had to be reinforced with nearly two full platoons from 11th Company just to bring our numbers back to fighting strength. Even so, I knew the spirit of my veterans hadn't broken. They were tired, yes, but not finished with the French. Their promotions, both surviving officers earning recognition, seemed to steel their resolve. If anything, it reminded them that their sacrifices meant something. Our next assignment was a difficult one. A small village bordered by a thick forest, with reports that the French defenders were well dug in, and that a high-ranking enemy officer might be present in the sector. 2 axes of advance were planned. I would take the men of 2nd Company straight up the center towards a large stone-walled building dominating the approaches. The newly attached elements of 11th Company would swing through the wooded French right, clearing the forest and pressing towards their secondary position. Once both initial attacks succeeded, my men were to provide the base of fire while 11th Company attacked the final enemy strongpoint. Battalion assigned an 81mm mortar to each group. Small comfort, but welcome. The opening approach went disastrously. The central structure was a fortress, in all but name. At least a platoon inside, a medium machine gun covering the approach, and even a 37mm infantry gun firing point blank across the courtyard. They shattered our first push, cutting men down before they reached the wall. We barely had time to catch our breath before the French launched a counterattack of their own. 3 armored vehicles, supported by fresh infantry, rolled forward with unnerving confidence. Some of our men broke. Even Lieutenant Barrett ran before my eyes, an act that earned him a swift and deserved field demotion. For a moment, it looked as if the center would collapse entirely. And then, as if summoned by our desperation, a lone Stuka screamed down from the clouds. What followed was nothing short of salvation. The pilot destroyed the French vehicles one after another. Bombs, cannon fire, strafing bursts, until each was a flaming wreck and the supporting infantry were scattered in panic. The company, moments ago on the verge of breaking, now surged with renewed fury. We stormed the stone-walled building again. This time we gained a foothold. A fire broke out inside during the fighting, turning the defenders into cornered animals. Some fought to the last, some tried to run, and those who ran did not get far. With the position secured, I ordered a change of pace. We had lost too many men to continue charging headlong into prepared defenses. From this point on, we advanced with caution, methodical, deliberate, and deadly. Our machine guns and riflemen outshot their French counterparts, and after bitter close-in fighting, we seized the third objective. From the edge of the tree line, we could see a village nearby. Houses overlooking the main road, positions that any French commander would use to anchor a defense. I gathered what remained of our second company and moved toward the two key houses on the road. 11th Company, further right, was sent to capture a lone building guarding a road junction. Their attack went smoothly. Ours did not. We took the house, but as we crossed the street, a concealed French 65mm infantry gun erupted in thunder, firing with uncanny accuracy. More casualties. I pulled the survivors back behind cover and reassessed. Even so, we'd cut the main road. And that is the end. So, you can see we took a lot of losses. We're asking for 4 regular squads, one half squad or one extra leader to replace the one that we don't have right now, the one that 11th Company was replacing, and then a support. What would you call it? A crew, essentially, to crew one of those AT guns or AT rifles. Even then, we're still not even going to be up to our full table of equipment or our full order of battle, but we'll be close. I think we'll have 9 squads out of the 11 we need, which isn't horrible. So, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found this entertaining. This was quite the battle. Hopefully my next one is not nearly as difficult, and I will be going at it with much more caution this time, because I found myself running my men out into open fields without cover, and they would just get mowed down. That was not very smart of me. But anyway, everyone, if you have any tips for me or any suggestions on how I could have played this battle better, let me know. Also, if you see anywhere where I broke any rules or anything like that, feel free to let me know. And it's really helpful when you add in the part of the rulebook that you're referencing. I do have the Advanced Squad Leader rulebook, the most updated one, and the Solitaire one too. So anyway, everyone, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this big video. I'll catch you next time.